It's Diana again. Welcome back to another installment of Woman Once Removed, my life story. Aren't you lucky? Well, tonight I want to talk about something that is a happy memory. It's a collection of memories about my friend Carmen. If you've listened to any of my other videos, you may have heard me mention Carmen. Uh, I had mentioned that Carmen was from Georgia, but actually she was from Spartanburg, South Carolina, and when my first remembrances of hearing of Carmen, she was living in Georgia with another friend of mine, Dale Upright, and they would tell me stories about when they were teenagers living and working there, and that's what made me remember Georgia. But whenever I first remember meeting Carmen, she had just moved to Charlotte, and she moved with her, at that time, husband, Mark Farmer, so I always known her as Carmen Farmer. Someone took me to her apartment. She lived in an attic apartment of a duplex house that had 2 apartments downstairs and then a 1-bedroom attic apartment upstairs. And the moment I walked in to her apartment and she turned around and looked at me like this and then threw her hands through her long hair. It was, I'm standing, it was down to her behind. You know, just gorgeous hair. It wasn't extremely thick, but it was shiny and beautiful and long. Oh yeah. She was one of those girls that would just sling her head and put her hands through it. And I would mock that whenever I could. But, and she had on some kind of a little skimpy top or something. I could tell she had the cutest, most perfectly formed small breast. I later found out that was from hormones. And she was about 5'7", 5'8". She wasn't tall, but she wasn't short. She was, you know, and with trans women, she was a pretty average size. And she had the most beautiful shape to her, hips and everything. Her eyes were like an owl's. They were beautiful, blue. Her lips were beautiful, but her teeth were not. And she had buck teeth. And she had a nose to go with buck teeth. So this is someone who was very attractive, and when she was made up, beautiful. But like myself, she had some things that were wrong with her that made her not exceptionally beautiful in broad daylight. Which she later did get fixed. She had her nose fixed and had her teeth fixed, and she was one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life. But I was in awe of her because of the fact that here she was sitting there looking just like a woman, had beautiful little breasts of a woman's in that shape and that long hair. Hey, I would have killed to look like her. And we became friends. It took me a while to get to know her because I didn't live really near her, and at that time I really didn't have, other than Dale Upright, who worked in Olean's, I didn't have really any connection to her to really start hanging out with her. So that came in time, you know, over time and through the years we became really close. And at one point, her and Mark moved downstairs in this triplex apartment house, and I moved upstairs in the attic apartment, and me and Jody Holiday did, and so we got to really hang out and get to know each other, and she loved to decorate. We had a lot in common. She loved to decorate a house and grow plants and do things. She was one of the best cooks I've ever tasted. Her food was great, and she's basically the woman I wanted to be. So I emulated a lot from her. She was slightly older than me, but probably not more than 6 or 9 months. She wasn't very much older. It seems that most of the girls that I hung out with, that we became a group, were all right in the same age group, within maybe a year's difference in our ages. We were all the same thing, same generation, I guess you want to call it. So Carmen was in that generation, and there was a time that because she was a country girl, and she had a temper. We did have one little row. Well, we had 2 little rows, really. This first one was not my fault. I'm telling y'all, it was not my fault, and I really had nothing to do with that. I was framed on this. Sometimes because I still had old Bessie at that time, and there were times that that if I wasn't using it, I would either take her husband to work, or I would let somebody take the car to take her to work. She didn't have driver's license. And someone had come upstairs, and I was eating my lunch in the kitchen, and said that Carmen needs to use the car. She wants the keys. Well, I had to go myself, because on my job I had been working night shifts, and I had to work the afternoon shift for somebody that had called in. So I had to use it. So I just told that person that I was having to go to work, that I wouldn't be able to do it that day, that they would have to call a taxi. That person went downstairs and said, Dinah says, fuck you. She ain't taking y'all nowhere or letting you use her goddamn car. I had not said that. Nowhere near that. Well, she comes running up those steps. I was sitting in the kitchen at the table, eating my lunch. She kicked the chair out from under me. I was on the floor, and commenced pulling my hair and slapping me. How I could say I loved somebody after that. But after it was all over with, she was crying and bleeding and begging me to forgive her, because she knew that I wouldn't have said something like that. You know, she finally found out that the person had lied to her. And so it was easy to love her, because she had a heart of gold, and she did for people. And like I said, I was staying with her at the time that I went to work for the first time as a prostitute. And she's the one that taught me how to do all that kind of stuff. And it's sad that I don't have any pictures of her. She's deceased now. Just through the years, my pictures got gone, and I don't have anything of her. It's been about 25, maybe 30 years ago that she passed away. She was still young. Her mother had died with cancer, and died very painfully. And Carmen had taken care of her during that time. And then a few years later, Carmen found out that she had cancer. She had the very same cancer that her mother did. So she knew it was not going to be good. So she got herself all dolled up. She went to the beauty shop and had her hair done, and it was looking all beautiful, and she had her makeup done, her nails done, and went out and bought a new outfit. Got her favorite whiskey or liquor or whatever she drank, and went out to the cemetery where her mother was buried. They say that she took some kind of drugs, probably smoked some weed, drank some alcohol, and blew her brains out. She left a note saying that she did not want to go through, and it was her decision not to go through what her mother had went through. So she ended it right then and there. When I found out about it, it was such a sad time for me. I had no idea that she had cancer. I would have been the first one that I went and took care of her. So, that was my story of Carmen, my sister. I love you, Carmen.